Good morning, everyone. I hope that you are safe and sound as you spend most of your time with your families and as you prepare for the requirements of your practicum. To help you out in conceptualizing and preparing for the technology-supported intervention that you will be designing as part of the requirements of your practicum, here is another short video on instructional design. In this video, we'll be talking about a few things that can help you think about how to go through with a requirement. First, we will define what instructional design means. Then we will talk about the Addie framework, which is a helpful model that e-learning interventionists are using to develop their interventions. We'll briefly discuss about the composition of the team that creates these kinds of technology-supported interventions. And we'll see the IMARC workflow, which is an example of a workflow from the Food and Agriculture Organization, showing how to actually develop e-learning program. So what is an instructional design? Instructional design, in essence, is the systematic development of specifications using learning and instructional theory to ensure the quality of training or the quality of learning. So there are two important things that I'd like to emphasize on this definition. First is that it is a systematic process, which means that from the time of conceptualizing the idea of the intervention until the time that you are already evaluating if the intervention is effective, there are specific procedures to be done, and we will be discussing these procedures one by one later on. Another thing that I'd like to emphasize is that although the program that you will be developing is technology assisted and it will be implemented in a distance learning modality, this should still be based on learning and instructional theory. So you should still need to go back to all the theories of human development, the theories of family development and relationships that you have learned in the class so that you can package your intervention in a relevant and in a meaningful way. So this is not a haphazard process of just gathering content and putting them in one place, but the process of developing the intervention should be purposeful, that everything that you use, every material that you input in the platform that you're going to prepare should have a purpose and should be able to lead you and the participants towards the desired goal that you want to achieve. So in job-related training, the aim of instructional design is to improve performance and to increase efficiency and effectiveness. And I believe that this also applies to other contexts, such as in the case of human development and family studies, wherein your goal really is to pick up a particular need of an individual, then address this particular need or concern using the e-learning platform or the e-intervention platform that you will be designing. And at the end of all this process, at the end of the participants' engagement in your intervention, the bottom line should be attitude and or behavior change. That before and after their engagement with the intervention platform which you will prepare, there must be some observable change in the way they look at things, in the way they comprehend things, and in the way they do things. So the next thing that I'd like to emphasize in this brief video is the Addie Model, which is a very helpful framework used in e-learning. So Addie stands for analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. Let's talk about each of the process one by one. So when we talk about analysis, what we really are referring to is the analysis of needs, which means an understanding of what are the concerns and issues that this intervention can address, It also talks about an analysis of the target audience, which refers to the understanding of the preferences, motivations, uh, age, and developmental profile of the particular target group to whom you want to address this intervention. And finally is the task and topic analysis, which now focuses on an understanding how, through the content that you will develop, you will be able to uh, break down the complex skill and help the participants understand and imbibe the specific competencies that they can use to be able to actually implement or enact a particular complex skill. So next is design. This is now the process wherein you strategize how you will package the intervention. So in this process, it is important that you clarify your learning objectives, which is discussed on a different video. We actually have a discussion on this. The sequencing, which means that, say for example, you will try to implement a series of learning sessions. The way that each of the content is presented has to be strategically timed and sequenced. The instructional strategies that you will use, which pertains to whether you will use tools which will enable you to engage in conversations, or which will enable the participants to engage with the material on their own or on an individual basis. Then this is also where you think about the delivery strategy. Are you going to use social media networks? Are you going to use content networks such as YouTube? Or are you going to make use as well of materials that can be downloaded and printed by the participants? And finally, even as you design or conceptualize about the intervention and how it looks like, you should already be pondering about evaluation strategy, or how you will check if the materials and the platform that you are using for the particular intervention is effective and is actually working. Then development, this is already the process wherein you will actually develop the content. So when you talk about the content, this pertains to the actual information that you want to convey, that you want to communicate, and it also talks about the vehicle or the medium through which you want to convey this information. Then it is also the process wherein you develop the storyboard, the entire picture of how the intervention will happen from the start until the end. And in certain cases, this is also where the courseware required, the actual technology platform is developed. But for the purpose of the practicum, what we are looking at is to use already existing coursewares, or to use already existing platforms that are available to you and to your participants. Then implementation is the installation and distribution of the intervention. So how do you make the materials that you developed accessible to the participants? And another is, this is also where the managers or the content facilitators manage the actual learning experience of your participants. And finally, at the end of the entire process is evaluation, where you try to see the reactions of those people who engage with your material, the learnings that they gain from it, if there is a change in behavior, and also their results of the entire intervention process. Were you able to achieve the objectives that you have set at the start of developing the e-learning intervention? So in terms of the team, there are a few people involved in preparing an e-learning intervention. In larger scale projects, there are capacity development managers. They are actually the one responsible for assessing needs and managing the entire development process, the entire instructional design process, gathering people who will help, making sure that the timelines are met and the schedules are met. Then there are instructional designers. So these are the people who focus on the instructional design itself, the content and the process of packaging and delivering the content to the learners or to the participants. Then, of course, there are subject matter experts. So these are people who are abreast with the content. So they contain the knowledge and the skills. So for instance, when you talk about developing a program for young people on how they can cope with depression or anxiety, subject matter experts may involve the counselors, psychologists, or teachers who have engaged or who have assisted students with this particular psychosocial concern. Then, on the other hand, there are also web developers and media editors. So these are the people concerned about making sure that the technologies used are appropriate and are accessible to the participants. They are also the ones who make sure that the technologies used are not so complex, such that it already makes the learning experience complicated and difficult. And finally, there are course administrators or online facilitators. So these are the people who manage the actual learning experience. They directly engage with the participants and they motivate participants to constantly interact with the material and to actually engage with one another to make the learning experience more meaningful. And finally, the technical support. So they are the ones in charge of making sure that the platform is working and that there are no glitches which are unnecessary or unwanted. So here is the picture of the responsibilities of and the key roles in the Addie process. So as you can see on the top part of the image or the picture are the particular team members engaged in each step of the Addie framework. And here is the IMARC workflow, which shows how the Food and Agriculture Organization develops their e-learning intervention. So as you can see there, analysis and curriculum design happens first. So a curriculum is designed by the curriculum coordinator and instructional designer with inputs from subject matter experts, partners, and users. Then based on this curriculum design, content is developed and peer-reviewed by subject matter experts just to make sure that the information you will convey to the participants are correct. Then storyboard development happens wherein the content is restructured by the instructional designers and converted into lesson storyboards. So this is now where you package the content in such a way that it will be useful for the participants. And translation and adaptation are done, courseware development are done, but these are of course for large-scale programs. Do you have questions? So if you have questions, you can just send me an email at nbbotor@up.edu.ph, or you can put a question just below this video so that I can respond to you accordingly. Your task now is to conduct an analysis of needs of the target clientele and the tasks, and to prepare a concept note for an e-learning course. So this concept note should narratively present the entire idea of an e-learning intervention that you want to implement. So that's it. All the best, and you have a great day.